Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Live. My name is Nick Taylor, your host, and today I'm hanging out with Daishi Kato. Daishi, how are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me here.
Oh yeah, no, I'm really excited to talk today. We're definitely going to talk about Waku, a React meta framework that you've created. Um, I guess before we get started, I'm curious how you got into open source because people might not be aware, but you have a lot of popular React libraries. Like for example, when I worked at Open Source, we used Zustan, or do you call it Zustan, like more like a German name, or is it just Zustan? I'm never sure on the pronunciation of it.
It's officially uh you can pronounce it as you like.
Okay, okay, yeah. So you've worked
Yeah,
on like Zustan and Jotai, and there's another one I'm forgetting.
it's called Varusio. It's
Oh yeah,
also
Valsho.
hard to pronounce.
Okay, yeah. So, and I guess it's kind of interesting because for people that have worked in React, like I remember when I started using React in it's about 2015. Um, Eventually, like I discovered Redux, and that seemed to be like the first library out there for state management in React because one of the things about React was it was the I guess the saying was just we provide the view layer and you do whatever you want for everything else. And so like I think for a long time a lot of people thought Redux was part of React, but it's not. It's like there is bindings for React, but um so I guess it's interesting that you ended up doing those other projects and obviously eventually came to Waku, but uh did you try these, because I used Jotai as well a long time ago with a place I was working at. We were using the Formic form library, and they used Jotai, I think, or they recommended it. Um, I guess I guess I'm just curious, like why you
Okay.
decided to make those projects or even get into open source.
Yeah, my journey to open source, the start of my journey was pretty long time ago,
Okay,
but we've been using React for a while, and eventually around 2018, I started looking into developing libraries.
okay,
And when React hooks are announced, I was
mm-hmm.
so excited.
Yeah,
This is something I can do. I didn't like class components,
okay, yeah,
and I wanted to do everything in function components. And when they are announced, I'm so excited that I
yeah,
can do something 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 interesting, something significant.
yeah,
So I jumped into developing open source libraries with
okay,
React hooks, and I put a lot of my time and effort.
okay,
And the first thing I did was creating Redux bindings,
okay,
React Redux bindings, because there are no official hooks with for Redux,
okay, yeah,
and not only me, but many people, many developers tried to develop React Redux binding.
yeah,
Eventually, the official Redux announced their official version of hooks, so that's kind of settled.
okay,
And then I started using. I continued my project for basically using React context,
okay,
but the library is called React Tract, and
okay.
that's based on proxies. And I
Oh,
also
okay,
had yeah, I also had similar libraries, and that one of them is pretty similar to Zastan. I call it Zastan,
okay,
and yeah, I started developing Zastan.
okay,
At some point, we discussed that there can be more than one state management libraries
mm-hmm.
in our group. So I proposed to develop Jotai, which which was inspired by Recoil.
Okay.
And the reason I like the idea is that it's not based on proxies.
Okay.
So um, that yeah, that's the reason I studied Jotai. And eventually we thought we can have one more, and that leads me to Virtual, which
Okay.
is proxy based.
Okay.
And so I started it out with the proxy based solution and I went back to the proxy solution again. But
Okay.
anyway, there were three libraries. We didn't think like all of them are like widely used,
Yeah.
but luckily, yeah, they are kind of used for production.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting because like I haven't really worked with proxies directly. I mean, I've done it a little bit, but I know uh, I'm sure you're probably familiar with like Immer.js from Michael. His last name's forgetting me. He works at Meta still, I think, but um, like I like the idea of it, like of this kind of draft concept. I don't know if it's the same thing in Valshio or like maybe different wording, but it is interesting where you're not. It seems to just propagate the changes and somehow with the proxy create the updated immutable state. From what I've understood, I haven't really used Immer myself, but is that similar with how Valsio works, or
Yeah, probably. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
okay,
it's kind of similar, but
okay,
yeah, slightly different. But
yeah,
let's put that aside.
yeah,
And so that was the story for state management
okay,
or global state solutions. And I have two. I set my domain for in two fields, and
okay,
one was global state, like
yeah,
the limitation of the limitation of React context and use state. The other was data fetching,
okay,
and so far I haven't done like anything significant like other libraries, but I made some data fetching library based on React Suspense. It's
okay,
there are a bunch of experimental libraries that I built,
okay. No,
and it's like
that's super
yeah.
neat. Okay, yeah, I
And
know.
eventually,
Yeah,
let me continue. Eventually, okay, there's a term called term says data fetching, hmm, React Suspense for data fetching,
okay,
and that was proposed from React a couple of years ago. But eventually, they say data fetching solution is RSC.
oh, okay,
So that brings me to creating a framework. I didn't. It's not my intention to create like a full production framework at first. It was
okay,
my experiment to so what said is that now the suspense for data fetching is RSC.
yeah,
So I like to see how it work.
okay,
So that
yeah,
that was my experiment. Excuse
okay. Yeah, no, okay,
me.
that makes sense. Okay. Sorry, continue.
And there are another motivation. So we have three state management libraries, and some people started to ask, how can those global state libraries be used in RSC?
Okay.
and and I didn't know because I didn't know how RSC works. I read the uh, official documentation, but that doesn't tell.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another motivation. So
Okay.
I wanted to see how those global state libraries play with React Server components.
Okay.
So that was
Yeah.
about a year, no, no, yeah, more than a year, about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I started the experiment RSC,
Okay.
and eventually, yeah, I can finish this. Uh, Eventually, I released my experimental project. People started think, this is something, and they
Hmm.
wanted to use it. So, and there are like no other competitors. I mean, there are Next.js, but no other React framework supports RSC.
Hmm.
So I changed my mind. This is something. So I officially say this is no longer an experimental project, and our goal is to make a production level React framework.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
was the start, like 1 year ago.
Okay. No, that's fascinating. I didn't realize that Waku came out of your. Well, I figured you probably created it to investigate RSCs, but I didn't realize it basically all comes back to the state management, and that this is what it brought you to. So that's super interesting. It's yeah, it's for myself. I haven't really done much with RSCs yet. The React Server components, because like where I was working before, we were using the Pages router in Next.js, and when I worked at Netlify, I mean, we had to support Next.js, so like I knew about it more from the not building something with it, but supporting it. So like for example, like when you stream in the RSCs, it's a different header that comes, and it's like a it's it's not JSON that comes in, but it's like a serialized version of a the that that tree of components, and then it basically gets hydrated on the client. And so like that's kind of like my extent of working with him. I mean, I went through like the Next.js tutorial a while ago on a stream, and I understand like because it's on the server, you can transform things. Like, so for example, say you had like a markdown editor, you could actually process that on the server first if you wanted to bring that down, and it's already rendered as HTML, as opposed to maybe you have to send it back to the server to transform it like images and stuff, and then you get the JSON payload back or something. So I I do find him interesting. I have to spend some more time with him, and I think after we stream today, I'm probably gonna uh, dig some more into Waku. But I guess so I understand why you created Waku now, right now, um, and when I saw it initially, it was kind of experimental, but I didn't realize you were actually decided, like you mentioned, that you're gonna make it for production use. So I guess uh, a question I have is like it's obviously different from Next.js for a few reasons. Like Next.js is really kind of like two frameworks now, like the because the it's all driven by the router. So you have the pages router and you have like the app router. So it's literally almost like two frameworks are in a framework, and they obviously support things all the. I think like if you deploy a Next.js, like for example version 9 application, it still works. Um, but
Which is nice.
yeah, which is great. Like they've done a tremendous job with support, supporting like just things working like forever. Um, but the nice thing about you creating this is you don't have any of that baggage, I guess. Like you can just say, hey, I'm starting fresh, and like you're not constrained by whatever constraints they may have had. And I think that's kind of refreshing, and that's where you see innovation happen. So this is pretty neat. I guess I guess before we dig into maybe just going through Waku with some live coding, is I guess for what have been the most difficult parts of working on the framework, maybe because like I know like pretty much all the meta frameworks, they're all using Vite. I know Next.js uses Webpack still, and they'll be using TurboPack, but you went with Vite, I'm assuming, because like a lot of the other frameworks, there's amazing support for things. um, it, I guess that helped you not build it quickly, but it gave you a lot to start with by
Yeah,
just having the Vite ecosystem. Okay.
yeah. Um, so 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 we use Vite, Okay,
Yeah.
I remember the question. What was the difficulty to make to build framework?
Yeah, yeah,
it's
exactly. Like, well,
it's like full of difficulties. So
oh yeah,
I
for
wanted
sure.
I wanted to start. I wanted to experiment the RSC, and RSC part was kind of simple. I mean, it's minimal. It's like it's just like you can render, you
Yeah.
can run React components on the server, and you can serialize the result and transfer via network. On the
Mhm.
client side, it gets the serialized payload, and
Mhm.
you can deserialize. And what you get is that something that you render on the client, so it's identical.
Yeah.
So that part is kind of, it turns out it's not that complicated.
Okay.
So just implementing RSC might be might be might not be too difficult.
Okay.
What I found was difficult is to make it a framework, and I didn't know what was a framework. I
Yeah.
wasn't a framework author. I was just
Mhm.
a library author, and library and frameworks are totally different.
Oh yeah, definitely,
And that
definitely.
was, and there were so many different requirements. And if there weren't such framework requirements, I think it's already done. Like
Okay, yeah.
what I wanted to originally was already finished. But
Okay.
there are so many various different requirements for framework.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to, yeah, it's still continuing.
Okay, yeah.
And my strategy is to make it minimal, so that other other developers can implement capabilities, features on top of it. But
Okay, I see, yeah.
yeah, I have to make it so yeah, it's like like a Lego block. They
Mhm.
can build things on top of it. But I have
Okay.
to design the base, what the shape of the block, so that they can connect each other.
Okay.
So that's still taking time.
Yeah. No,
But
that's understandable. Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's amazing.
and I don't want to spend time to do things that is not related to my focus. So using Vite was a
Okay.
natural choice,
Yeah.
and it's great. I mean, the developer experience when we run dev server,
Mhm.
just great. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, there are no like official documentation for framework authors.
Okay.
I had to guess and read some source code and ask people. So that was also tough. They
Okay.
have they have docs for creating plugins, but
Okay.
yeah, it's like more than that.
Okay. No, I think that's really great feedback for the V team. I know some people on like the V core team, and um, like I know a few of the people that work on the Astro framework. One of them I used to work with at Netlify, and but that's a good point because you're right. I've only ever heard. I mean, people will say they built the framework with V, and I've heard people talk about making V plugins like you mentioned. But you're right. Like there doesn't seem to be a, oh, you want to create a framework, here's like the very base of what you need to do that. So um, no, that's interesting. And it's definitely challenging, I would say. Like I know like a friend of mine, Dev, he gave a talk on building a framework, like not a production framework, like it was just an experiment, but he used Vite and I think Nitro and Vinci, so which are like some of the building blocks. I don't know if you use any of those as well, or
No, we don't. I
okay.
was I was hoping that that might help, but as far as I understand now,
Yeah.
the concepts, the design decisions are a little different, and I
Okay.
cannot just take it and build on top of it. So right now
Okay.
we are using the bare
Okay.
Vite.
Yeah. And there's someone in the chat, Nixia618 says, they said, yeah, yeah, off-road Vite is rough. Meaning they're like, if you're trying to build something with it, I guess to your point about there's not, excuse me, there's not like a minimal, this is how you start to create a framework. That would be interesting to have documentation, that for sure. I mean, it would obviously require, I think, feedback from all the people that have created frameworks, maybe to make that doc. But I think that would be a good thing. But it is amazing though that you've obviously been doing a lot of open source, and this is built off of open source as well, and it's we won't go into that whole discussion today, but funding in open source is definitely challenging still. And if people are interested in sponsoring you, you have your GitHub sponsors, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's in the links. I'll drop them again there if anybody's interested. And Nixia was also saying, they were messing around with. They said I was doing dumb mixing frameworks experiments. To be fair, okay, they were just exploring, but like you said, it is just challenging out of the gate, I guess. Um, okay, why don't we? Uh, are you comfortable if we move over to maybe taking a look at Waku?
Yeah. Good idea.
Okay, okay, perfect. I'm just gonna go ahead and share my screen, so just give me a second here. Okay, there we go. You should be able to see my screen, and I'll zoom in so you can read it better. So I'm just gonna drop a link to. This is already in the other links I dropped, but I'll drop this directly for anybody interested in checking out the Waku framework. I'll just pop that on Twitch here, and I'll just pop it in the chat over on YouTube as well. So I was looking at this before there's the live stream. There's obviously a lot of interest in it. I mean, from my time working at Open Source, my CEO said basically any project that's over 100 stars means it's definitely gaining traction, and you're almost at 5,000 stars. So clearly, there's interest in this, and I didn't realize you had so many contributors already as well, which is really nice. Um,
Yeah, that was why I decided to move forward.
okay,
Without their support, I wouldn't have decided to go this.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I see at least one familiar face, Mohammed here. I think he's on the Solid JS core team. Um, so yeah, but yeah, that's super interesting. So okay, so I mean, we don't need to open up the code files here, but um, I guess if we take a peek here, so if I wanted to get um up and running here, I can just go and do npm create Waku at latest.
Yes,
Okay,
that's
perfect.
recommended.
Cool. And I was reading this the other day, so I didn't realize what Waku means framework in Japanese. So it's
Yeah, yeah. We took time deciding deciding the name,
okay.
and yeah, we suddenly settled on it.
Yeah, no, I like the name, and it's I don't know. It's like a lot of things, like English things sound okay, but when it's in another language, it just sounds better. I've noticed this with French as well, which I'm fluent in. It's like you say something in English and then you hear the same thing in French, and it just sounds so much better. So okay, so I'm just gonna zoom in here so you can see my terminal. And I'm just gonna run npm create Waku at latest, and I'll just close my output window here for now. So it's just telling me to install the
Hmm.
latest. I'll say yes.
Hmm.
Okay, so we'll just say I'll just call it stream with Daishi. Okay, and so the install should go pretty quick. I have a pretty fast internet connection. Um, and it's also nice you have a CLI for this. I think like that's kind of you almost have to have that these days if you're you're doing a
Yeah,
framework?
yeah, and this is not mostly this is not my work. This is
Okay.
the work from contributors.
Okay. All right. So I'm just gonna go ahead and oh, I'm already in it. Oh, whoops, there we go. This is just my shortcut to open it up in VS Code again. Okay.
Okay, you want to
So
run the dev server.
okay, cool. Let me just bring this down a bit. Close this. I'm assuming it's npm run dev.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So we're listening on port 3000. So I'll just close the terminal for now, and we'll come over here. Obviously, have a bunch of ports here. Let's go to 3000. Okay. So here we go. So we have. I'm just zooming in so people can see it better. Um, so it looks like we have the classic counter example. So I imagine I can click and increment it, and we have a couple routes here.
yep.
Okay,
Yeah, we can take a look at the code. So
sure.
this is a template. It is a starter. So
Yeah, for sure.
it's minimal. It's kind of too minimal, and yeah. But
I like the.
yeah.
I was
Anyway,
gonna.
so if you open up the source folder, everything
Okay,
is source folder, and there is
okay,
pages and the components.
okay.
Pages are like a file system based router.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so this is, I guess, pretty standard. Like all the frameworks have a file-based router typically. Other options too potentially, but um, I guess the interesting thing here, because I haven't done much with RSCs yet, but this is a server component, I imagine, because it's a async. Um,
Correct.
yeah, and I guess getting back to what you were talking about like how you got into Waku because of state management, I I find it not funny, but we always used to have like the data was not well, it could be separate a lot of times from components, and now it's almost like they they say the data should always be co-located, well in a RSC if you need data, obviously, but it just seems. I think that's one thing that threw me off initially with like.
Yeah, it's funny because with traditional React like client components, we were told that we shouldn't fetch data in the component,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
now in the server components, it's recommended to fetch data in the component render function. So
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's. So I guess I'm not alone in that. Yeah, I just found that odd, at least initially, but I haven't worked with them that much yet, so like maybe it'll grow on me. But I've just been so accustomed to like, I mean, obviously a component could have a hook, like whether that's just a regular fetch or like a use query from like Tanstack query or something. But yeah, I think that's the main thing here. But it
yeah,
also like because it's on the server now, it that's why it's async because like you we can't wait for like a second phase once the data gets retrieved like you were to do on the client side. So I guess it makes sense, but yeah, I'm still that's something that's still I have to uh, kind of
I
separate from
I
the
like
old ways.
to I like to make it clear that when I say minimal RSC framework,
Yeah.
so there are React spec or what there are something React
Yeah.
provides, and we have some API that Waku provides. And my goal is to make the Waku layer as thin as possible.
Okay.
So what you see is mostly what React provides, and there must be only small part that's specific to Waku.
Okay.
And in this case, async function and await get data are all React features.
Yeah. No, that makes sense based on what your goal was where people can build off of it because Next.js obviously, as you're aware, has a lot of opinions on how things should be. So, which isn't a bad thing, but your goal is a little different. You want people to
Right.
build off of this. So So I think that makes sense. I guess when you say people build off of it, do you think more of having a plug-in system over time, or do you mean more like I might create a meta framework based off of Waku, like not a fork of it, but just kind of like install Waku, which is my core, and then go from there? Is it?
Say again. Say that you have
Yeah,
two
yeah,
options now.
yeah, yeah, sure, no problem. Sorry about that. What I mean is like when you have the goals of your
Hmm.
architecture are for it to
Hmm.
be minimal and like Lego blocks, like you mentioned, and then people can build off of that. Um, I guess is
I think I
it
get it.
okay?
So the first option is to make Waku like a building block that people can embed it into their own kind of framework.
Okay,
Option two is like make Waku is a base layer and they add plugins or libraries on top of it.
okay,
Is it does that interpretation
yeah,
correct?
exactly, yeah,
There can be, so my original goal was option A
okay,
because I didn't feel like creating everything. But
hmm,
as I said, when I like changed my goal, pivoted it, I decided to go to the second option. So
okay,
Waku now should be the base layer that people first install, and it's like minimal, it's empty. So we expect more libraries and plugins will be added afterwards.
okay,
I mean, yeah, on top of it.
okay, yeah. No, that makes sense.
So that's my goal to make a Waku ecosystem.
No, that's good too. And I think like for someone like me who hasn't really excuse me, worked with React server components that much yet, it's kind of nice that you've done the minimal because I think understanding them would be a lot easier because you're not like Next.js is great. It's not to knock on Next.js, but they they have you know uh, conventions and the way they do things, and it's kind of hard to understand what is RSC sometimes like and React versus what is Next.js, if you know what I mean. Um, Whereas like
Sure.
well, I guess it's like I think because Waku is very minimal, like it's really focused on the RSCs and not like Next.js has these additional opinions like the caching and everything. And I think because you don't have that, I think it's just easier to understand,
Uh-huh.
at least in my opinion.
Yeah, we can say that. I can say that it should be minimal. But on the flip side, is that caching is difficult,
Yeah,
and I don't
yeah.
want go to I don't want to touch it. So I want to yeah, I want to make it like a third party library
Okay,
plugin,
yeah.
not built into the core.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so we're looking at a page here. About is another page route. Oh, there's just someone else in the chat. Hey Fuzzy, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. We're looking at Waku, the framework from Daishi here, and we're just talking a bit about the page routing right now and React Server components. Um, but yeah, so we have a couple routes here. This will be a similar thing. Um, I guess one thing I see here is there's a link component, and that is built into your, I guess, is that built into your router for client side
Yes,
navigation as well as server
yes,
side
yeah,
navigation? Okay.
right, right. So
Okay.
ideally, if we could use just anchor tag, that would be the ideal because it's like a thinner layer.
Hmm.
But I think it's too. I'm not sure if it's feasible. So I ended up adding our work specific
Yeah.
API here.
I think that's okay though, because this is still minimal because like
Mm,
I've seen the other frameworks, not just Next.js, but they typically like the router component
right.
of the framework, they always seem to have a link component, and it makes
So it's
sense, I
kind of
think.
unavoidable.
Exactly, yeah. So no, I think it fits in your minimal architecture, I think. Um, Okay, I guess uh, uh, I know you're aware of all these things here. So the layout is obviously like the pages can use this layout.
Mhm.
Um, I
That is
guess one.
common to that is common to pages like about and index in this case.
Yeah, so like if and that's because it's in the pages folder, correct?
Hmm.
Okay. Um, I guess one question I had is, do you support nested layouts, or is that like not part of the
We do
minimal?
support nested. We do
Okay,
support nested layout.
okay. So it's uh
You
I don't
want
know.
to
I'm
make a, yeah, let's create a new folder in pages.
okay. All right, let's just call this. I don't know. I'll just say other. Terrible name, but okay. And we could create another layout, I guess.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's say underscore, and it always has to be underscore for the compiler. Is that why?
Sorry, let me see,
Oh, sorry.
I mean,
It,
my screen. I have to
oh, it's not showing up.
disable my our how can I
Oh, here, let me check.
hide cameras
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, I see. Hold. Oh, okay, I understand. Yeah, sorry. It's
on my end?
blocking it. Yeah, here, let me move this over. This should be okay.
It's not
Uh,
shared.
oh yeah. Here, wait. Let me go back. Sorry. I was trying to fix it with the. Yeah, I'll drag it over.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah.
Thank
So
you.
we'll come here. So there. Okay. Um. Yeah, I was asking. I'm pretty sure this is a React thing, or is it might be your compiler or like V. But the
This is not React thing because
okay,
it's the yeah, this file based routing is framework specific,
okay,
and I we try to make this as intuitive as possible, like other frameworks. So
okay,
we shouldn't invent something new here.
okay. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so okay, my co-pilot is uh, giving me something here. I guess this is probably right. Uh, there's a props with children, isn't there? Or what is it? Props. Yeah, we could say that. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So okay, so we have a sub layout here, and the way this should work is the base layout should be there, and then the subfolder should have the nested layout, and then the whatever your page is. Okay.
But
So other
you need a page as well.
yeah, yeah. So we'll create a new page. I'll just say index.tsx, then export default, not other layout, uh, other page. Okay, and we don't need any we don't
Hmm.
need any props right now, I don't think. And so I could
Okay.
say, um, let's say yeah, other page. This is an other page, and then just put in some hello world or something. Okay, so I guess if we save this and then I come back here and I don't
I'm
have a
not sure.
link yet.
Yeah,
Let's.
I'm not 100% confident if this works without restarting the server.
Oh, okay. Is that because of the
Can we try?
pages gen file here?
No, because it's a new file. I'm not sure if
Oh yeah, yeah.
we
Oh,
can try.
it's
We can try. Can
it
you open? Can
says
you
it
go back to the
reloaded.
browse? Can you go back to the browser and say what does it say?
It says not found. So, but I
No,
want to make sure I did that
what's the
correctly.
URL? What's the URL? It's too small
Sh-
for me.
Oh yeah, sorry. It should be this other. So
Web
localhost 3000 slash other.
slash. Okay.
Okay, so I don't think I need to put index, but no. Okay,
No, no.
so
I'm curious.
let.
I'm curious, but if we restart the server, it should work.
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's do that. Give this a second. Okay, it restarted. So now I'll just refresh. That's good. And if I go to slash other, okay, yeah, now it loads up. Okay. So this is neat. So we have like the main. This is part of
Right.
the main layout. Oops, I
Hmm.
switched pages. And then this is the other layout, and then we have our page here. So,
Right.
okay, so that's neat. Okay, so yeah, I guess like you said, the server just needs to, I guess, regenerate the route. Or
I think it can be improved. I think.
okay,
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
see.
okay,
Okay.
cool.
Um.
Uh,
So one thing to note here is that you have footer and header component in components folder, and
yeah,
that is used. Those are used in layout.
okay.
I mean
So
the
if we go,
root layout.
okay, so if we
So
come
that's
back to
why we.
there, okay, yeah, and so if we come into the root layout, so this is a server component, and in there, I imagine the footer is that still a server component as well, or are these client ones?
You
Mhm.
you can double check it, and
Oh yeah, it's a
the
client. Okay,
counter is used client.
yeah,
Footer is
okay, it's
this
just the
is there's
RSC.
no directive, which means it can be anything. It
Okay.
can be anything, meaning it can be server components or client components. But as we import this file from layout tsx, which is a server component,
Hmm.
when we use this footer in server components, this will become server components.
Yeah, no, that
But,
makes
but
sense.
technically, we can use this file from counter tsx,
Hmm.
which then becomes client components. So we explicitly call those components shared components
Okay.
that can be either one.
Okay, yeah, it can be in the server boundary or the client boundary. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. And I guess the other thing is like not all server components have to be async. It's only if they're loading data or are doing some kind of async operation. Because like for example, the footer here, there's no async. I mean, you could make it async, but there's no need to. Um, okay. Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think this is the thing. I'm aware of this because like I have dabbled with it a bit, but you really only need. I mean, you obviously have to put the use client directive if you have any kind of client side interactivity. But I think initially when they came out React server components, it was confusing. Like why isn't it use server? But the default is it's just server rendered. But I mean, even the client component is server rendered. It's just it hydrates as well. Um, I think the directives were a little confusing at the beginning, maybe, but
Yeah,
not with
it
Waku,
is
with
confusing.
React in general. Um, but it does make sense if you think about it, and it's it's kind of interesting that they went with the string approach because like older JavaScript before we had modules, you would have like use strict. So I guess they went that kind of same route, which is kind of smart because it's just a string. Um, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
yeah, okay. So
yeah. There must be several design decisions,
yeah,
but yeah,
for
this is
sure.
one of them.
Yeah, and I guess so that makes all sense to me. And so like already out of the box, like you said, you don't have the caching aspect of things, but already I think this is pretty clear how everything works here, which I think is great, because like you're saying, going with the minimal approach. um, I did have one question. The page gen here, so these
Hmm.
are just okay, it's just types, but I
This
see.
is this is something we will be announcing in a week or so.
Okay.
This is a new feature we've introduced recently,
Okay.
done by one of the contributors, and this allows us type safety for the router.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, because I've seen this in Stack Router. Um, they do something similar. Um,
Right.
and it's like so when you create a new file, it would like for example, the file I created, it would basically while the dev server was running, it would do this, for example, and then with that file, this doesn't exist right now, but it seems
Yeah,
to
because it doesn't
auto
exist.
generate. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me of something. So there are, yeah, let's go back a bit and see index.tsx in
Okay.
the root.
Yeah.
At the end, so at the end we have a get config function.
Uh, okay. Yeah.
So this is Waku specific.
Okay.
So we don't do any. I said we don't do any caching, but we still do some.
Okay.
And our strategy, our design decision is to make it simple.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, this page can be either static or dynamic.
Okay. Yeah,
If
that
it's
makes
static,
sense.
yeah, if it's static, it'll generate static HTML and static RSC payloads, and that can
Okay.
be deployed on CDN.
Okay. Yeah.
If it's dynamic, it's a dynamic component, and that we need a runtime server to
Okay. Yeah.
serve this component.
Yeah.
So
No, that's nice.
for now this is static, and if you don't have this file, this function, the default is dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah, that would
So
make sense. Yeah.
yeah, so if
Okay.
we yeah we can copy this get config function to other index other slash index tsx, which
Okay. Yeah.
makes
Other, and then, so we
which
can
make
make
yeah this
static
make
here.
we make this static.
Okay, and then we
should
can come
should
here.
also be in slash layout other slash layout.
Oh, okay. Layout, other. Okay, that makes. Oh, whoops, that's not what I meant to put.
Not the
Sorry.
one.
Sorry about that. This one. I guess this is interesting too because sorry, this layout. Does that mean that so they're both static right now, but um, we could say like we want the layout to be static only, so that you kind of have a shell, but we
Hmm.
could have the page be dynamic then, right?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's nice. Um, there's Nixia who's in the chat. Nixia618 had a couple comments. One is they said it's interesting that you abstract Vite away from the end user, and I'm sure that was a conscious decision because there's no Vite config in here. Um,
right. We have
yeah.
default config for Vite internally in the source code.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And I guess this comes back to kind of what you were saying, like when you created it, like Vite, you needed Vite to build it, but that's not really what you wanted to focus on. Like you need it
Hmm.
obviously, but okay, yeah. And then they're also saying they 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 noticed in Hano JS that they do something similar, um, which is interesting. I like the export config concept because it's not the same thing. But when I worked at Netlify, if you use one of the Netlify functions or Edge functions, at the end you export a config to say what this function does. Like you could define like the route of the function, caching and stuff. So it's not the same thing, but I like this concept of exporting the config. And so now that we have that there, I could come here basically, and the get config is there now. Oh, it already
Yeah,
generated it.
so
Oh,
it
okay.
generates, yes.
Oh, okay. So the way I understand it then is as soon as you put that export config, this will auto update if the dev server
Right.
is running. Okay. Okay. And
So
then
that it can infer types.
okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay. And also it's nice that there's a static, like if you were to run the npm run build, you would get the actual html like static and deployed to a cdn, so that's pretty neat. um, Cool. And uh, thanks for joining us, N6 KUYT. I'm not sure what cookie time means, but thanks for joining us. Um, okay, so yeah, this is interesting because, like I was mentioning, TanStack Router does something similar too, I believe,
Right,
and it's
right.
it's to get the
We
type
want to
inference.
do the same. We
Yeah,
wanted to do the same.
yeah, no, that makes sense.
So yeah.
So, and if we come back to here, let me close a few pages here. If we come back to the layout of the main one here, and we have the links, I believe. Okay, where was? Oh no, it's in the footer. Is that where the links were? Yeah, here. Okay, so we're just using
It's
Anchor.
a link. I think it's
Is that where
somewhere.
the about? Yeah, where's the about import? Oh yeah,
I
no,
think
it's
it's
here.
yeah,
Oh,
it's here.
it's in the page itself. Okay, so you
Yeah.
have the link component here. So I just want to test something. So if I put my other page in here, so if I say other, that should be good. But if I do this, okay, yeah. So that's where the type.
Ah,
It's
yeah,
telling you
yeah,
that. Yeah,
exactly. That, yeah, good
yeah.
point.
That's what I was expecting. Okay, no, that's a really nice feature because it's you know anybody that's ever deployed a site and you have a incorrect link, like at least an internal link, this is nice that you it will literally fail the build. So that's a really nice feature. Uh, cool. Okay, and this is also why I'm a fan of open source. You're looking at what other people are doing, and other frameworks are looking at what other framework people are doing. So, but I think this is a great choice that you did that for sure. Okay, and yeah, they're saying it looks interesting as well. So, but I really do like this minimal approach because like everything we've walked through so far, it makes complete sense to me. And like you said, there's no caching or anything yet, and that will probably be something third party. But I guess can you like right now, are you able to like if I were in my index page, could I return HTTP headers or is there just no support for that right now?
So you s- you want to return HTTP header from a component?
Yeah,
That's that.
yeah. I'm just curious. Like, can you or like because you can't or is there no way to set any caching right now? I know you said it's not included at the moment. Um,
No, not caching. But what's your question again?
so for example, let's say on the index page, we're returning the component, but if I wanted to say like, say this was a dynamic page, is there
Hmm.
any way for me to say like, this page is cached for, 6 minutes? Just if I were to do like a
Um,
cache header is what I mean.
Cache header of HTTP.
Yeah,
Returning HTTP header from a component is pretty tricky because
yeah.
in this case, this homepage component is async, which could mean we already when we reach here, we
Oh
might have
yeah.
already sent HTTP header.
Okay,
So
yeah, correct.
it's
Yeah.
not deterministic. So it's
Yeah.
technically possible, and we have a workaround to allow it,
Okay.
but it's not generally recommended.
Okay. So, okay. No, no, that's fine. I was just more
In terms of
curious.
returning HTTP header, that's I think the one of the most trickiest
Yeah.
one of
No,
the trickiest thing.
that makes sense because it would also have to be the top level component, but like you said, it depends like if
Reading HTTP header is easier
mm,
because
okay.
it doesn't change. By the
Yeah.
way, I forgot to say, but it's based on Hono,
Okay.
and we could use Hono context. So yeah, we can actually read anything from Hono context.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Oh, also in the chat, there's my old coworker, Brandon. How you doing, Brandon? Brandon, I don't know if you know Brandon. He works a lot in the Angular space, but he created a meta framework for Angular called Analog.js. So he's just hanging. So nice to see you, man. Yeah, just for the few people that just joined recently. I'm hanging with Daishi. We've just been going through parts of the Waku framework. It's RSC enabled framework. I like you said, it's the only, I guess, second official one. I guess right now. Like there's others still working on. I don't think any other frameworks have RSC support officially yet. I don't think. Um, but anyways, but yeah, so that's what we've been digging into, and um, uh, getting back to what you were saying though about like obviously uh, rendering the HTTP headers, it's complicated. It's a lot easier to read them. I wonder. This is just me thinking after having seen the config here. Like, I wonder if you could even do something like cache, you know, like this, or maybe
Yeah,
that just
that
ends up becoming a plugin eventually, or
that might be an option.
yeah,
Interesting.
uh, yeah. It's just I'm thinking of how they did it at Netlify with their functions and stuff, or but yeah. Anyways, just me poking around, I guess. Cool. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
speaking on Netlify, if you're interested, we can try deploying this on Netlify.
Oh yeah, for sure. Cool. Let me just stop this. So um, we can do, I guess, here, let me close this for a sec and just open up the package JSON. So we just have the
You
build. Okay.
Yeah, can you take a look at the README on the GitHub and
Yeah.
yeah,
Let's
maybe
come back over.
just open the
Yeah, here.
repository.
Oh, okay, the README is not there. Okay, yeah, yeah, because we created it. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, let's come back to here. Okay.
And
Oh,
look for Netlify.
okay, yeah, sure. Okay, yeah.
So there are two options. One is a normal Netlify function, and the other is Netlify static,
Mm-hmm.
which is possible. The pure SSG is possible if all components are static, and
Okay,
this is the case for us for now. So we
okay,
could try this first. So we want to grab that with Netlify
okay.
static.
And okay, so we can I'll create a separate one. Build static.
I guess the default is build actually if we want to deploy on Netlify.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, it should be. It shouldn't be separate. We can delete that later. So
Okay, yeah.
it should be called stat build, just build.
Okay, and is that just because it's the defaults in Netlify for when you?
It's the default when we use minus minus with Netlify.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I
Okay,
guess I think it creates TOML file.
okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's do this. So um, there's if you're interested, because I worked on this stuff. I worked on the frameworks team. Um, you can actually set up defaults in Netlify. There's like a repository for it, and it basically it means you don't need to have a toml file, the Netlify toml. We can talk about it after, but
Yeah.
okay,
Right
so
now
this
you have it generates Netlify TOML. Yeah.
okay,
We can look at the dist file.
okay, yeah. So here's all the pages. So this is literally all the statically generated stuff. Um, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
The public.
but if we when we use SSG, a static SSG, pure SSG, only the public, only this public is the final result that will be
Okay, yeah,
on the CDN. So yeah, let's look at the public folder.
okay, yeah,
Open the public folder. So we have some HTMLs
yeah,
like
exactly.
index HTML and about index HTML and other index HTML.
Yeah,
Those
exactly.
are those are used when you first open the browser or the initial road, right?
Okay,
But when we move from top from top page to about page, it's a client side navigation.
Okay, yeah,
It
that
doesn't
makes sense.
it doesn't fetch HTML again. It
Okay, yeah.
only it only fetches the RSC payload
Oh, okay, okay.
that is stored in RSC folder,
Okay, yeah.
and
Okay,
yeah,
here's the
like
serialized stuff. Okay.
right, like up. So if when we when we navigate on the client side from the uh, root page, top page to about page, it will
Yeah.
read this about dot text
Okay, gotcha.
instead of
Okay.
about dot html. I mean about slash dot index html.
Okay. And it's still static though. Like it's
It's
still
still
pulling
static.
the RSC, but it's static. Okay, yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So that's good. And then if we come back to here, so I built it for static, and then we'll deploy it to Netlify. I'm just gonna initialize the project with Netlify so I can deploy it. Um, you can type Netlify, but when I worked there, there was always an alias for Netlify. It was just NTL, so I just got used to that. Okay, so
Actually, alpaca is hiding the left
oh,
column.
okay, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
I have to. I like my alpaca, but yeah, exactly, it is hiding it. Let me move it over. Thank you for mentioning that, though. I think I'm gonna change my layout a bit so that I'm gonna do something where I can hide it permanently if I'm just doing the live coding part. Okay, so actually, we should probably I'll create a GitHub repository first. So like, let's do git init, git add. These are just my aliases, and then we'll do
I guess
initial.
creating GitHub repository and Netlify CLI is slightly different, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's true. Okay,
Because,
well, to
yeah,
do the
because
Netlify deploy.
yeah, this is Netlify deploy CLI, and we could also use Git connection, Git integration, GitHub
Okay,
integration, but then the build will happen on the Netlify server, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So
Okay.
there are two options.
Okay. So we have built it, and if I do, okay, so there's my initial kit. I'm just gonna create the repo, public, yes, yes, yes. I'm a big fan of the GitHub CLI. Okay, so we have a repository now, and then I can say, I'll type Netlify just so it's a little clearer. And this will generate the TOML, create and configure new site. Uh, we'll go with a random name. Okay. And then, so the build, so this is, I don't know if you can see it, it's grayed out, but it says the default is npm run build with Netlify. And then directory to deploy, it's current directory, I guess. And then, okay. All right. So it looks like it's there. And I don't think it deployed it the first time. Let's go to it. Yeah, it's not there yet. So now we need to deploy. So if we do clear netlify deploy, because we've already built it, this should deploy it. I think we have a netlify toml now. Yes, we did. Okay. So, okay, so it deployed it, and this looks correct, right?
Yeah,
It's the public.
this looks correct.
Okay, cool. All right, so now I can go to, let me just make this taller. Where is it deployed? Oh, yeah, here. There we go. And we have our site deployed. Okay, so that's neat.
Yay.
All right. Yeah, that was pretty smooth. Obviously, we was talking through a few things, but um, so so that was the static version. And
Hmm.
if we go back to the README,
Yeah, let's try dynamic one. I mean
okay,
server. So doing that, we can actually make some components dynamic.
okay.
So
So let's do,
let's go back to the source code.
yeah. Okay, and zoom in a bit. Okay, and let me just close the dist folder. Okay, so if we go to one of the pages, I guess, I think the
Yeah,
index.
yeah. Let's make this dynamic.
Okay,
Change the static. Yeah, that one's the dynamic,
yeah.
and we can do anything, but what will be easy is to show the date.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Maybe down there you have get data, and it returns. Yeah, we could do that here or do in there, like yeah, add body. No,
Oh,
what
in
be
the body.
easier is to add yeah, add body,
Okay,
the date of the local machine.
okay. Let me make this a template string.
Mhm.
Just say new date to ISO string.
Okay,
Okay, and I guess
that's it.
we can try this. We'll just I'll run the dev server again just to see it
Uh-huh.
working, and come back. Okay, so if I refresh, it changes so it's dynamic. So there we go. Oh, whoops,
Right.
that's me doing something. That's not. There we go. Okay,
I think
refresh.
it's cached. Can you force reload?
Yeah. Okay, let me go back. Oh yeah, no,
Right.
it seems okay now. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so that worked. So I'm gonna stop the dev server. And when we build it
We
this
we have
time,
to
is it's
we have to change the package JSON.
okay? Yeah.
And now
Uh,
remove netlify static option.
oh, okay, yeah, gotcha. Okay. Also, hello, learner 0418. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you. Since you just joined, we're looking at Waku, a minimal React server component framework from Daishi, who I'm speaking with, and we're just about to deploy a dynamic version of one of the pages to Netlify. So I'm just gonna save this, and okay, so we can do npm run
And
build again.
my belief is that we have to remove or rename netlify.toml because if it exists, it doesn't override.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, we can. I'll just rename it for now.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So if I go ahead and build, okay, so again, it's building all the assets, and now we have some new ones, which are SSR assets, which were those weren't there before, I don't think. Um,
I think we
let's take a
did.
peek. Okay, um, so we obviously have the public folder still for some things,
Mhm.
but we have the dynamic part, and I guess
Dyna-
so. This
Dynamic, yes, dynamic part is from yeah something called .js.
okay. If we come back over here, uh,
Well, if I can explain, the dynamic part is started with entries.js,
okay,
which is a which is a big file, I guess.
okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, I think I've seen this in what is it? Remix has like an entries, kind of like a server's entry with v.
Can you I can you check if netlify.toml is generated?
It doesn't look like it generated it.
Okay. Let's see. I think we need to build with minus minus with netlify. So
Okay,
that we missed.
okay, so let's go back to
No,
here,
no. That is um
like
yeah,
just
we
this.
can yeah, I think we can do that. Yes. That
Okay,
works too.
okay, so let's clear. Okay, and if
Now it
we
should
come,
generate
oh
netlify.toml.
yeah, it did. Yeah,
Yeah, and
there
it
we go.
has no, this is not the one.
Oh, sorry, the wrong one. Yeah, sorry. Netlify. Okay, here we go. No, this is what it ended up generating this time.
Are you
Um,
sure?
yeah, I can delete it. I'll just delete them just to make sure, but it's
Oh, okay.
clear.
I think I misunderstood.
It seems to regenerate it like you mentioned, but it seems to generate this
Okay, so
still.
it I think this is fine. I think we use the default function folder. So if you look at .netlify,
Yeah,
we have the folder .netlify somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
where
yeah.
all the yeah.
Then we
Okay,
have
yeah,
functions. So this is new thing. This is
yeah.
something we haven't had before with static build.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this is where for folks who don't usually look at the internal stuff of Netlify, this is where the .netlify folders where you'd have your Netlify functions or Netlify edge functions, and that gets deployed as well. Okay, so and then here's your sorry, this is the internal
Ah, yeah, that
Netlify
is
folder, and this is your actual function here.
exactly. I
Yeah,
misunderstood.
yeah. Sorry, it's been a minute. Yeah, so here we're just basically saying serve it on
Mhm.
Netlify JS, and I guess a question here is prefer static is just default to that if possible. Is that what that means?
If it has if it has a file, static file, it serves this first. Otherwise, invoke
Oh, okay.
function.
Okay, I understand. Gotcha.
I think it's we need this. Otherwise, it's the other way around.
Okay, so let's redeploy this to Netlify. This will be a different version, and just give it a second. So we can see here it's uploading one function, which should be the function like you were saying to have the dynamic stuff. So let's go here now, and we can see that there's the time there, and if I refresh the page, it's dynamic now. Compared to this was the other one, which was static, which doesn't have that. So yeah, it looks like that worked really well.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, no, this is really neat. Let's see here. Just doing a time check because I know it is late for you. We have about 17 minutes left still. If you want to chat, I'm trying to think. Is there anything you think we haven't covered really yet? We've gone through, excuse me, the components, React Server components, client components. For example, like the counter with the use client, which is uh, just out of the box React stuff that you're using. But we also talked about the link component, which is here, which and so to be clear with the link component here, now that we've got the dynamic website, when we say go to that page, it's going to navigate and download the actual RSC payload that's dynamic, right?
Yeah,
Okay, and we
it's
can probably
either from the client side point of view, it doesn't know if it's dynamic or static. If it's just go to the new
oh, okay,
page,
yeah.
and then server returns the static file, or if there is no static file, it goes to the function.
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay, I understand. So we can see here, like, I just went to the about page and we can see that it pulled down the RSC, or I think it is, maybe it's cached already. Okay, saying
Yeah,
about,
if you look at the response, it should be the RSC payload.
yeah, so there's the payload. And now if we, let me just clear this. And now if I return home, which is the dynamic page, um,
Mhm.
okay, so it's going to the root again. We have a RSC payload. I'll zoom that in a bit. Um, but we can see, I think if, let me show mainly this. Um, we can see now, I think, we can see it's using a function, and it looks like it skipped the cache. We don't see it saying like go to the actual server function, but we just see like you were saying, it doesn't distinguish. We're just saying go get the root text. Um, oh, but this is the layout, correct?
This is root. No, no. This. Oh, actually, if So this is one thing I should clarify. It's
Okay.
if you navigate if you
Yeah.
navigate, it'll
Okay.
fetch the RSC
Okay. So
payload,
let's go.
but it's just one request.
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
one request fetch all the layout and page components at once.
Okay. Okay.
So
Uh,
includes everything. And if the client already has some static components,
mm-hmm.
it doesn't refetch it
Yeah. Yeah.
if it
It's cached
if,
essentially because.
if it's
Okay.
static.
Yeah.
So it only takes dynamic components.
Okay.
But the request is just once.
Okay.
HTTP request is just once.
Okay. So I'm just trying to see if I can see the initial RSC here. Maybe I'm going into it too deep. Um, but yeah, no, I was just curious. Fetch doc. Okay, so this is the doc. So the first time it loads the page, it's the static page here, and then let's see here. We should have. Uh, this is the initial um, assets here. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the, that flight data is the initial RSC payload.
Okay, so yeah, so if we look at this,
So
for example.
this is because we use SSR, server side rendering. We
Okay,
generate HTML and we embed RSC payload in the HTML.
okay. I guess there's a push function that we call. Anyways, I won't go too deep here, but this is great. So yeah, so we've been able to do a static page, a, a dynamic page, and
Mhm.
I like if we come back to the file structure here. Uh, I really do like what you did with the config part here, the down here. I'll just zoom out a bit so people can see it for people that join late. So uh, there's this section in all the page. Well, if you specify this in the page, like Daishi was saying, you can have a couple options. It's just static or dynamic. So if it's static, it just generates it at build time, and then the CDN will serve the static. But you could also have dynamic, which is what we currently have, and that's how we're able to get. This is the dynamic payload here for the data, and we can see it changing. And it's I do I'm a fan of this get config, and the get data here is always called as well. Like obviously this is a simple example. Like in a
Right.
real world, we would say like go to some API,
Exactly.
but it definitely passes it along. I think this makes sense. Um, cool. Um, well, I think this has been a pretty great tour of the framework, and I'm just gonna drop links to where people can find you again, and I'll drop a link to Waku. Is there? I guess we've got a few minutes left. I guess we could talk about like it deploys to other places right now. Like I see
Mhm.
Cloudflare, PartyKit, and Dino deploy. So that's pretty
And
interesting.
Vercel
Oh yeah, and Vercel.
at the
Is
top.
that in there? Yeah, no, I'm assuming Vercel's in there since I believe they sponsor you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. Um, cool. I guess is there anything else you wanted to talk about the project before we wrap up? Like maybe I don't know if you want to discuss future plans or are you always looking for contributors? Like I see if we go to the top here,
Yeah.
there are some issues open for sure.
So if you open up in a V1 roadmap
Okay.
at the top, I was right
Oh,
there. Yeah.
sorry.
I was expecting to release V1 a little earlier,
Okay.
but as I said, there are many framework capabilities missing. So it's taking time, and unfortunately, not this year, but probably next year we'll
Yeah.
reach reach
Oh no.
there. And yeah, we always look for contributors
Okay.
in various aspects. It can be very deep in V or even helping in documentation, creating examples.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be helpful too.
Yeah. No, I should. Uh, I don't know. I find this all super interesting. I should probably take a look at one of the issues. So I'm gonna put that on my to do. I'll just write it down here. Um, but yeah, and there's obviously like a lot of uh, contributors already. Like just to give a shout out to your contributors again. Like there's already 37 contributors to the project, which is great. Um, Obviously, I imagine you've probably probably done the most, which
Mhm.
makes sense. But that's great. So it sounds like the project's really healthy, a lot of interest in it, and yeah, no, uh, I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was a great walkthrough of how to build something with Waku, and I do like that you've gone with the minimal architecture, because like you could obviously get very opinionated if you wanted to, but I like that you want this to kind of be like a building block for people to build whatever they decide to build. So no, that's awesome. Um,
Yeah, that
Also,
minimalistic approach is also the same for other state management libraries
mhm.
that I develop.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to be one of your core principles, and like I'm a fan of Zusan, and I haven't used Jotai in a while, but and Valsio is the most recent one. Is that right?
It is, yeah, it's just, yeah, it is the most recent one, but it's like a couple of months difference in terms of the
Okay.
birth date.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll just
if you are not actually using it, but looking into it, it would be fun. Just playing with it might be interesting.
yeah. No, for sure. No, that's awesome. Let me just bring us back to our discussion view. Um, no, this has been really great, Daishi, and I really do appreciate you taking the time. For folks who aren't aware, it's probably almost 11:30 for Daishi in the evening, so I really do appreciate you taking the time. This was a lot of fun, and anybody else in the chat, I encourage you to take a peek at some of the issues. I know I'm going to take a peek at one of them. I wrote it down. My goal is to get at least one PR into Waku, so maybe more. We'll see. But anyways, cool. For everybody else, I have a live stream next week, but it'll be on the CFE YouTube. I'll drop a link to the schedule if people want to see that, and then I have one more with um, people at GitHub. I'm going to be doing a live stream with Andrea Griffiths on their Open Source Friday in a couple weeks. But aside from that, it's going to be the holidays for me soon, so I'll probably be back with guests in the new year. And yeah, thanks everybody today for the questions in the chat and for hanging with us. And we'll see you in the next one. And Daishi, if you don't mind just staying on for 1 minute.
Sure.
And thanks everybody, and we'll see you in the next one.